I want to have a little talk with you. This is somewhat confidential, some areas are speculative. Where did coronavirus COVID come from? Now, the most dastardly thing about this virus is those who die do so. They die because the virus attacks the hemoglobin molecule, and hemoglobin, the globin, the protein part and the hematine part is separated so that our hemoglobin cannot carry the oxygen. So when blood goes through the lung alveoli, the oxygen is absorbed from the air and the carbon dioxide, oxygen is given to the blood and the carbon dioxide is released back. So in our inhalation and exhalation, we absorb oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Now when the COVID attacks the hemoglobin molecule, it disrupts and hemoglobin runs down in the blood, and the person, though on a ventilator, knows and feels he can't breathe or he's not getting the oxygen. So the hemoglobin molecules are broken down, then the heme radicals that are left freely floating around in the blood begins to attack releases a real strong immune attack, inflammatory attack on the lung cells. So the coronavirus itself, it has a spike, and that spike has can attach to the human respiratory cells through the ACE enzyme. It binds to the ACE enzyme and enters the respiratory cell, the alveolus cell. It can also enter alimentary canal and kidney cells if the ACE enzyme is there. Then it enters, and inside the cell it multiplies, and it can spread from cell to cell. That is why the spread of the virus after initial incubation period is so rapid. It spreads from cell to cell. It avoids the immune mechanism by a principle called syncytium. That is, it spreads from cell to cell very rapidly, and suddenly you get a large number of viruses destroying the cells in the respiratory tract. And while this is happening in the respiratory tract, it attacks the hemoglobin molecule, and ultimately the person can't carry the oxygen that he needs. Now, anesthetists and ICU specialists have observed this, and they initially said how they die, the way they change color from red to purple, is as if people getting the mountain sickness, that is in high climbs without oxygen, there are changes that occur in the lungs. And now they are describing the pathology as the hemoglobin being attacked. Now, and also there's an excessive immune reaction which is called a cytokine storm. Now, some doctors in Spain have found that if they treat these people with methylprednisolone, you can stop that immune attack and the attack on the hemoglobin. How do you know that a person is getting into this problem? The brain is the first organ to feel that it's getting less oxygen. It's called anoxia. So the patient gets a little confused and gets disoriented in space and time. So the recommendation is that as soon as you detect it, quickly treat the person with methylprednisolone. And also heme radicals. Now when hematine is not formed, the feedback, negative feedback inhibition of the enzyme aminolevulinic acid synthase must stop producing heme. It doesn't happen because the negative feedback control is not there. So there has to be a drug given to stop the aminolevulinic acid synthesis. So the synthase enzyme is blocked by a simple drug that used to be given for tuberculosis, INH or isoniazid. Now, how did so why does the CDC and the FDA not support the president in USA in his call to treat with hydroxychloroquine? Now we know President Trump is sometimes outspoken and sometimes he talks out of turn also, but somehow 4 weeks ago he said treat it with hydroxychloroquine. He probably picked it up from the initial French trial where they treated with hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. Now accusations have been raised saying he has vested interest in the production of hydroxychloroquine, the Paconil brand, but the fact is that India is one of the largest producers of hydroxychloroquine. Now, heeding the President's call, Peter Navarro, the Secretary of Trade and Manufacture, has somehow got about 29 million doses of hydroxychloroquine. But from the beginning, CDC, Dr. Fauci, opposed the treatment of patients with hydroxychloroquine. In actual fact, hydroxychloroquine can be life-saving at a certain time if given early enough in larger doses than the usual dose given for rheumatoid arthritis and so on. For a long time, hydroxychloroquine has been used in malaria, and for a long time in vitro studies and in actual treatment, hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine were known to be effective for viruses. Quite extensive studies have been done about the SARS-CoV-1 virus where chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine were effective, and they also have anti-immune effects, and their long use in malaria make you know that they are reasonably safe and their side effects are known. In spite of that, the FDA and the CDC continue to oppose the President in his desire to get hydroxychloroquine freely available is a mystery. Now, clinicians in US have begun to prescribe hydroxychloroquine in large numbers. Now, it is not a wonder drug, but it was one available drug, and the head of the infectious disease in China, Professor Zheng, when he gave the Zoom interview attended by about 7,000 online, he mentioned hydroxychloroquine as a drug that they frequently used. So there's every reason to use hydroxychloroquine. And with maybe favipiravir it can be used, or with remdesivir it can be used. But at the same time, there's one thing that the global planners want many people to die without any easily available drug, while they do research using money for polyvalent gamma globs and so on. I mean, those are research things that are always possible, but without giving the immediate drug available, pussyfooting was, of course, mysterious to say the least. Britain had their own herd immunity concept and got into great trouble, but they're catching up. So I'm speaking this mostly on the medical front. Then, of course, the origin of the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, now known as the COV2, SARS-CoV-2. It has a history. Wuhan was China's great showcase city, modern China's brilliant city, 500,000 scientists, of Wuhan's 13 million population, 500,000 are scientists, PhD students, and so on. Also quite a carousing city with nightclubs all day long kind of thing. Flights available, free visa it used to have for 144 hours, real showcase city. And there was this 1,000 talent program where young Chinese students were in exchange programs in different countries, so with the Harvard. Then it was found about 4 weeks ago that Harvard scientist Dr. Charles Lieber, head of chemistry and chemical biology, was in a virus program, and some dubious viruses were exchanged, and he was arrested for receiving unauthorized money from China. Then about last August 2019, incinerators were installed in Wuhan, and the citizens of Wuhan got on the road, about 10,000, and protested, but it was hushed. What were these incinerators for? What was China getting ready for? Then from November 2019, Now understand, I'm not into China bashing, I'm just giving the facts that are now emerging. From 2019 November, Wuhan began to report this unusual pneumonia. Through December, by mid-January, it was quite full-blown. Then they told the medical people not to report this pneumonia, destroy the evidence, and the whistleblower was arrested and he later died. How many died in Wuhan? Then WHO goes there and sanitizes the whole thing and does not say how bad Wuhan is. And between January 15th and March 15th, 454,000 Chinese traveled in and out of US. And there were direct flights to Italy, northern Italy, the leather industry being quite connected with China, and Italy gets infected very badly. Then China is still not shut down by WHO. They say it's controlling and so on. It has controlled well, and China comes out with the story that they have largely overcome the coronavirus problem, and many countries of the world now erupts with coronavirus. There's another story going on. The CDC were quite connected with the virologists of China. What evidence that emerges is that there were virologists who were academic and were very happy to be connected with American virologists or virologists anywhere else. And there were military virologists also in the deal. And when the new virus pneumonia or deaths were happening, suddenly CDC evacuated from Wuhan. And American government seemed not to know it. CDC took the decision to evacuate. The academic virologists were surprised by CDC evacuating when they were in great trouble with the new virus. So there seems to be something that the military virologists and the CDC virologists and the Harvard virologists knew that others did not know. So then Wuhan becomes full-blown, and now they say it's fully recovered. But now again China is reporting a backlash. So how many really died in Wuhan? We don't know. So this is a little run of what COVID is doing. And then, of course, those who are getting ready with the vaccine to market a global vaccine scheme and have a digital certificate, a SIM introduced to the right hand and to the forehead maybe. And also this SIM has been touted around that it can telephone your cardiologist or the nearest hospital if your heart rhythm goes wrong. So different benefits are cited. But now the SIM is going to be mandatory if the global vaccination drive has its way, headed of course by Bill Gates and others. Now, when the triple vaccine was there for diphtheria, pertussis and tetanus, it was all bacteria-based vaccines. They did very well. Then came the first early viral vaccine, the polio vaccine by Professor Sabin, who was an outstanding Christian, and it was one of the best vaccines, and that stopped polio worldwide. Then started coming the multivalent vaccines, measles, mumps and rubella. From the beginning the question arose, if you keep a live attenuated virus pool available in the world, those viruses will from time to time become pathological, and there would be outbursts of measles or mumps or rubella here and there. So the argument arose, and the vaccination lobby and the anti-vaccination lobby saying vaccines are a living virus pool. You can't deny that. And the other problem is exactly how does viral immunity come from viral vaccines. Then to add to that many more vaccines, and a child getting so many vaccines within a few months raises the valid question, can children have so much of memory for vaccines, and what happens to the children's normal immune mechanisms and systems when so many adjuvants and so many doses of vaccines are given? So that's a real issue also on the vaccine front. So then there is the 5G issue, because scientists of many countries, it's easily available on the internet, European Union and other many countries, and conservative parliamentarians said don't install 5G without proper scientific study, because 4G already has issues and 5G is bound to have more issues, and those issues were itemized as distortion of hemoglobin molecules, effects on genome, and all that has been suggested, and it is easily available. You have only to just to Google and see. Reliable articles come up on 5G. So this is not medieval Christians trying to oppose scientific advance. This is reasonable, well-placed scientists, 250 of them in the European Union, protested, and their voice was not heeded. The European Union gave the opinion to 2 small NGOs who sanitized the whole thing and said it is safe. They are still saying proper safety studies were not done. Then the issue arises, why is the American Navy so heavily infected by coronavirus? Why are cruise ships infected by coronavirus? Why did Wuhan, the first city to have 5G fully installed in China, have this coronavirus so bad? So what is the relationship between coronavirus, 5G and immunity in general? These are valid scientific questions and not mere conspiracies. So that's about a whole lot. But of it all, the most diabolical thing is that the hemoglobin molecule is destroyed by the coronavirus, and such people die. Finally, there's a thought that some kinds of hemoglobin presence, according to genetics and ethnicity, make people more susceptible to the attack on the hemoglobin. So that is to be researched and seen. So this is the other side of the coronavirus, the dark side of the coronavirus. I hope this clarifies, and some of my friends would engage this talk, I am hoping.